Hi there and welcome to my new channel. My name's Ian, and what we're going to do is we're going to go over different species of reptiles over the coming videos that I'll be releasing on my channel, and with this hopefully it'll give you some better understanding and better idea of how to care for your reptiles or reptiles you may be getting in the future. So let's start off with today's first video, which is going to be about leopard geckos. Very easy to keep, I would say. Leopard geckos, very good for beginners, ideal. The care requirements are very minimal compared to a lot of other species. With that, I would say that you do have to do your research. Make sure that you have the proper equipment, dietary requirements, all that there. So that's why we're going to do this video, actually, just to make things a little bit easier. I'm a person that's kept reptiles for well over 15 years now. Does that say I'm an expert? No. I mean, I don't. Just means that I've kept them for a long time, but I've dedicated a lot of time to their care requirements and also into research on how to keep them for a long time in healthy, comfortable surroundings as well. So with that, leopard geckos, just to give you a background, leopard geckos actually are indigenous to the continent of Asia, most notably northern India and Pakistan, Afghanistan and Iran as well. So those are the areas where they're actually from. They prefer a more rocky substrate, I would say. Some people confuse leopard geckos with requiring lots of sand. That's not necessarily the case. Yeah, sure, you'd find them more in a sort of desert type area, but where you would find them more notably if it's actually rocks. They like to climb top of rocks, bask in those rocks there, and that's where you'd find them in a more rocky substrate there in the continent of Asia. In recent years, over the past 20 years, the keeping of leopard geckos has been on the up due to the fact they are quite easy to keep, really. And if you actually have the fortune of having a leopard gecko from a hatchling, then you're able to actually get them used to being handled, so that you can handle them comfortably, get used to interaction, because that's what we all kind of like enjoy, that interaction with our pets, you know. And leopard geckos can enjoy this as well, as long as it's done in the correct way. What I'll do in a few moments is actually I will show you my two leopard geckos. They are two female leopard geckos, and I will show you them. There are different types of leopard geckos depending on the morphs. Now, that's something you'll hear quite a lot of when you get into the area of keeping reptiles, is morphs. That's basically breeding them for different colours, different patterns, the genes, the DNA, that sort of thing there. So that's something you'll definitely hear a lot of. If you're not intending to actually breed your reptiles, I wouldn't worry too much about that. You know, it's something more when if you're actually intending on breeding them. So what we'll do is also we'll discuss also the best places to get help as well. Now, I'm a big advocate of the reptile forums. You can actually Google that, reptileforums.co.uk, and there's lots of help on there, lots of different sections. When you are in the area of keeping reptiles, sometimes you'll come across something that will baffle you. You'll be like, why is this happening? You know, one of the big things that people worry about is when reptiles stop eating. Big panic moment. You start wondering, what have I done wrong? What's up with the gecko? What's up with the snake? What's up? So lots of times your reptiles will go into what's called brumation. They slow down, They literally go into a form of hibernation. The eating stops, they've built up the fat. And this is certainly the case with leopard geckos. Most notably the females. The females store a lot of fat in their tails. That's where majority of all that goes, is in their tails. All that calcium, all that goodness goes into their tails. Here's the downside of leopard geckos, is that when they are scared or feel threatened, they can actually drop their tails and escape. That's how they evade predators. They actually drop their tails and then they get away. So sometimes in captivity, well, when we're keeping them, if they're not handled correctly, if they feel threatened, or if you're actually handling them towards the tail end and you're doing too much handling, they will drop that tail. It does kind of grow back, but not as nice. It's like a stump it grows back as. So sometimes it has happened. I've known people who's kept leopard geckos and the tails have dropped. So it's just something to be aware of, right? But there is correct handling for this. So what we'll do is in a few moments is we're going to actually have a look at my 2 leopard geckos, and I will show you what they look like and how they are handled as well. Now, as you see here, I've got 2 hides. Each hide has a gecko each in them. What we'll do is we'll start off with this one here. This, and this, I should say as well, this is a typical hide that you'd want to get for your leopard gecko. It's a great size hide for them to hide in as well. This is something they do quite regularly, by the way. They do spend a lot of time hiding, especially during the day. They're more nocturnal, active species they are. So during the day you'll find less activity, though it has been known in captivity, and spend more time being active, doing lots of things like that, but more than likely it's more at night. So just going to gently lift this, and here we go. So this one, her name is Ember, and she is a tangerine tremper leopard gecko, and this is the correct way to actually handle gecko. Never go from the top, because that's how they feel threatened. Always try and go from underneath, in the belly, if they're willing, or just let them walk onto your hand. Let them sniff your hand, make sure they feel it's not a threat, and they'll walk onto it like Ember's not going to. But I can actually, she's used to me, I can pick her up underneath, make sure she feels supported, just let her roam over my hand. Never squeeze, never ever go to squeeze or cusp, anything like that. Because this can also lead to the tail dropping. And as you see, that nice orange in her tail. Now, Ember's never had any spots. You might have seen other leopard geckos where they have spots. So yes, they have spots, but Ember does not, because she's not been bred or not had the genetics for to have spots. She's always had the tangerine, and she's always had a bit of orange down her back with the yellow, and also the kind of blue on her head and eyes. So that's Ember. I'm just going to put her back, let her go into her hide, so she feels, because this is very unusual for her to be in this situation. So if I let her go into the hide, she'll feel more secure. We'll have a look at this one. Now this one's going to be very unique actually, because this is Blaze. She's also a tremper leopard gecko, an eclipse tremper actually, but you're going to notice here she's quite white all over her body. You see the skin. Now I'm being very gentle here because it's very important. This is where she's about to shed. You see, she'll shed her skin and she'll have new skin underneath. Very important that you don't feel tempted or go to pull the skin. Sometimes they'll shed and they'll have bits on them. Let them deal with it. unless it becomes a health hazard. Let them get the skin off. Do not pull the skin, because you can actually cause tears, cause sores. Do not do this here at all. As you can see, I'm not handling her too much due to this. I didn't realise she was going to be in shed today for this video, but I'm just wanted to show you Blaze. Currently right now, Blaze is also not eating right now. So she's currently, at the moment, I mean, I thought she may have had eggs. Now, this is another thing as well. When you have female leopard geckos, there's a possibility where they will have eggs. Now you think, well, hang on a minute, I don't have a male one. They actually produce eggs that are unfertile. Something they do. And they lay the eggs, they're not fertile at all. But they go through this cycle. I don't believe she has eggs. I've been feeling her stomach. And also there's another thing that you can do as well. It's called candling, where you can actually just put a flame, not too close, but close as safely possible, just to see in the belly. We're not going to see too much right now because, as I say, she's currently going to be shedding. I'm just going to put her back in this hide so she feels a bit more safe. As I say, I don't want to handle her too much and cause any undue stress. And that's something else as well, because like us humans, they feel stress, and when they're handled too much, possibly, they get a bit stressed out. It's not good for their health. Not good for their health. But these two very much used to me and my way of doing things, so they're very much comfortable with me, and they know I won't do anything detrimental to them. As you can see, they're having to go back into the hides there, so they're not feeling stressed out. So what we'll talk about next is the enclosure type for your leopard geckos as well. So with the enclosures that you require for leopard geckos, it's kind of mixed in terms of like what people recommend. Some people recommend a 3 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot enclosure. I currently have mine in a Exoterra terrarium. I can't quite say that properly. I'll try it again. Terrarium, and that's a 90 by 45 by 60. Now, so that's a pretty good size terrarium to house 2 geckos. That's probably the maximum you would want, really. I wouldn't go for any more than 2, unless you're going into the breeding area where you have 1 male. Never keep 2 males together. That's another point, because they will fight to the death, and that goes for majority of reptile species. It's to do with dominance, so it's something that pretty much you want to avoid. But as I say, I've got 2 females. They've lived together in harmony in their enclosure. But yeah, I mean, I would say probably a 3 by 2 by 2 is a good idea. They require heat. They do require heat, obviously coming from the very hot continent of Asia, Northern Territory. They require, I would say, a gradient of 90 degrees Fahrenheit on the hot end, with a cool end being around about 70 on the cool end there. So it's so they can actually come across and just get some cool and then go back and get some hot. And that helps with digestion. So that's a very important thing, because reptiles are cold-blooded, they're not able to regulate their body temperature. They need that help from the actual temperature that you would provide. In this instance here, a heat mat is a good start, and making sure that you put it around about 88, I would say. Using a heat mat, you would require what's called a mat stat. So that comes with a sensor, and what you do is put the actual heat mat on the bottom of your enclosure, or just underneath your enclosure. If you have a glass one, like the terrarium, you can put it underneath. And then you have your mat stat, where you would put that as close to the bottom there over the mat, so it gets a good feel for the actual temperature. And you'd set the temperature on the mat stat for around about 80 to 90 there. We're coming to the area of substrate actually as well when it comes to into like the heat mats. Substrate has been a long debated area for leopard geckos. Some people keep them on sand, some people keep them on newspaper or kitchen roll. I myself have kept leopard geckos on sand, and when I say sand, calcium sand. You can buy these from any reptile shop in your area or even the larger pet stores. It's something that I have learned is it can be very damaging. Yes, it looks nice, it looks very nice, pretty and that, but the problem is that the geckos, even with them being calcium sand, and it states on they can eat a little bit of the sand, it's not good. What happens is they eat it, goes down, and it causes what's called impaction inside. Leopard geckos have a very delicate digestive system, and it builds up in the intestines to where they literally they cannot pass it. They cannot pass that sand, and it becomes to the point where literally it causes death. Unfortunately, there's no two ways about it. It causes death unless you catch it early enough. But sadly, when you notice it, it's probably already past the point, unfortunately, there. So that's why I'm more an advocate of using reptile carpet. Now, reptile carpet, it's green. It's like a green beige cloth. not quite a beige cloth, but it's green and it's easily changeable. You can put that down and it's not going to cause any damage to the geckos whatsoever. They'll use a side of the enclosure to where they go and do their business, and you can actually remove this carpet and clean it thoroughly. What I tend to do is I actually tend to put it in warm water in the sink along with some reptile disinfectant cleaner and let that soak for like 20 minutes, and then make sure it's all clean and clear with some bit of scrubbing, and then hang to dry. So it's ideal, but there's also like the newspapers that you can use as well, which you can change as well. Like I'm a more advocate of that. Yes, not as pretty, but it will protect your geckos much better. It will stop any possibility of impaction. So you've controlled that bit there where you can prevent impaction that way. In your enclosure as well, you want to make sure there's water available, just like any species require water. You can get a small dish and that will do. Just make sure it's topped up. With water, you cannot fill from the tap due to the fact of what there is in the running water from a tap. The best way I have found in combating the fluoride and all the things that reptiles are not able to deal with is actually to get a empty lemonade bottle, Coca-Cola bottle, thoroughly wash it out, and then fill up from the tap and allow it to sit for 24 hours. That way, what happens is it actually settles and all the nitrates and all that just gets rid of that, and you're able to actually fill up their bowls from that there. Easy way. Yeah, it can clutter your kitchen because you end up with about 6 or 7 bottles depending on how many reptiles you keep. I've currently got 9 at my kitchen. It can be a pain in the backside, but it's something that's best. You know, it's the choice you make. Like, and you want to make sure you keep your geckos healthy. That's what I recommend. Again, as I previously said, plenty of hides. Make sure there's plenty of hides as well. Leopard geckos don't require high humidity or nothing like that, so you don't need to put any moss in or live plants. In fact, do not go that route there. A couple of plastic plants for them to climb on, fine, absolutely fine with that there, just to decorate the the enclosure. But the most important thing is putting hides. Also, if you can get hold of any rockery. Now, your reptile shops will sell this as well, or a little trip to a beach. I've come across many great pieces of rockery that I've used for my reptiles, and just make sure that they're suitable in size. It's not going to take up the whole enclosure, but it's ideal for your geckos to climb on, because it also helps with their claws and also shedding as well. So, but when you do get your rockery, if you do get one from, say, the beach, it is essential that you boil it to remove any parasites. And I mean boil it, literally. I'm not talking just under the tap. Put some pots on, some pans on, fill it with water, boil it. Boil that rockery there to remove any parasites, any mites, anything there at all. And then you can actually put it into the enclosure. So there we go with regards to that. Getting back to the heating side, so we said about the heat mat. It's been contested whether leopard geckos need UVB, ultraviolet. A lot of species require ultraviolet to help with their bones, to help with calcium. It has been contested. I have never used UVB with my leopard geckos. Never used them at all. What I have went with is the heat mat and also an infrared bulb. Infrared bulb is ideal for them because they don't see that there, encourages activity. Some people, what they do is they have a basking bulb for daylight, and then they have another one for simulating moonlight as well. It all depends upon how you feel about that. For me personally, what works best is the heat mat and also a infrared bulb, and for that to be set at because I have the infrared at the cool end, you see, so that's probably where you want around about 70 there, because you don't want it too cold on that end. You want still some heat, around about 70 on the cool end. But as I say, it all depends upon the route you take. When you go into a reptile shop, you'll probably find that they don't have UVB in their enclosures for leopard geckos. I've never seen a tank in a reptile shop with UVB for leopard geckos at all. Never seen it. So, but again, there are many care sheets out there that will say one thing and another one will say another thing. I'm just telling you from my experience, and that's where it comes from. But they do require calcium. So here we get into the calcium end, the vitamins end for your leopard geckos. I always provide a little lid for them, which is filled with calcium. This lid is from a Coca-Cola bottle, thoroughly washed out again, clean, disinfected. And I fill that with some calcium. Now you buy calcium in a pot, just like that. Different brands of calcium. You can buy them from the larger pet stores, as we know, or your local reptile specialist stores. And I provide that calcium just in case, because they know themselves if they need a bit more. Maybe sometimes you've not given enough. They have just a lick on the tongue. So that's ideal. We're coming to the dietary side of things now. What they eat is locusts, crickets, mealworms, waxworms, calciworms. That is the diet. Though I mentioned waxworms, that's more of a treat. So waxworms, they come in a small pot, and they are very much like chocolate to them. They will eat them till the cows come home, but it's not good for them in the long term because they're very, very high in fat. So it's not good for them in the long term. Offered more as a treat once a week. What they should be having is crickets, brown crickets, locusts and mealworms. Now, when feeding your geckos, the size of the insect should be no bigger than the size of your gecko's head. So there are different sizes you can buy of the food for them. And depending upon the personality and desires and wants of your leopard geckos, they'll tell you whether they prefer one food or the other. Ember and Blaze, they prefer locusts, thankfully, over crickets, though I still do provide them crickets. Be prepared though to put up with the noise from crickets if you have the larger, more the standard size crickets. They actually create that cricket noise and it can drive you insane. But I do provide them, but more so I provide locusts and mealworms. Mealworms, some small ones, provide them in a dish. Now, it's important that you gut load your live food for the geckos. Very important for that. Now, how you do that there is with the locusts, I actually buy wild rocket. I buy that, and I also dust that with a little bit of Arc vitamins. Just dust that, and the insects, live food, will actually eat that there. They're getting the goodness. You're passing that goodness on to your leopard gecko. It's very important, very, very important. I also occasionally dust the live food with calcium as well. So not only getting vitamins, they're getting the calcium. Very important, actually. That you're giving them that source. Very, very important that you're doing that there. So you keep them. I mean, I keep them in individual tubs because I buy them about 50 locusts at a time. I also buy other insects also from other pets, but I buy 50 locusts at a time. Never use iceberg lettuce. Now, if you hear somebody say that they feed their live food iceberg lettuce, they're doing it wrong. Categorically, doing it wrong. It is poison to reptiles. Absolute poison. Do not do it. So when you're going out buying the grub from your supermarket, always check. If you're buying the assortment bags that you can get in supermarkets like Asda, for example, check that there's no iceberg lettuce in there at all. That's why I tend to go with wild rocket and spinach. It's more safer that way. You can also provide apple, pear as well, and with that there, sweet potato, and also butternut squash. They're a good stable actually for gut loading your live food. So just moving on from there. With leopard geckos, they also like to, the life expectancy of leopard geckos is around about 15 to 20 years, depending upon, again, how you keep them, and also against any things that happen. They are susceptible to the same things that, unfortunately, as we as humans get as well. I mean, health-wise, things happen like that, but usually for about 15 to 20 years that they can actually live for, depending on how well you keep them. And also, excuse me, sorry, they grow to around about 15 to 25 centimeters in length. So that's a fair size. You saw the size of Ember and Blaze. They won't get much bigger than that. I mean, I've had them now for 3 years now, and so they are adults. They are fully fledged female adults, and they will not get much bigger than that. And you saw their tails as well. It's very important they have a nice fat tail, so that's very important. So what I'm going to do as well with this video is I'm going to provide some links for care sheets. You can have a look at them, you can peruse them as well. And this is the first video, probably not perfect. We're going to be perfecting the videos as we go along. You know, I just want to give you a basic understanding of leopard geckos and how to keep them, really. You know, they are very easy to keep, and there's always that thing where people say, oh, they're not as lovable as dogs or cats. They are, actually, they are. I mean, you can see I could handle them, no problem at all. The interaction you have builds that bond. I truly believe that. And every reptile, every animal really has an individual personality, and you get to see those personalities, those intricacies. They come out and they do bring joy. That's something. I mean, I never ever thought 15, 16 years on keeping reptiles, like I'd be at this point, you know, where, you know, I've had so many over the course of the years, and I never thought like I'll be at this point where I actually do see the different personalities in them as well. You will see that, and you will build that bond as well. They're not an animal. Don't buy them just for Christmas or because your child has seen one in the shop and they want it, and just for 5 minutes. Please do not go down that route. If you're going to actually get a leopard gecko or any reptile, please make sure, or please have it in your minds and your hearts, that you are giving this animal, this creature, a permanent home for life. It's very important. The amount of reptiles that are unfortunately discarded, abandoned, is horrific. And thank God for the RSPCA, SSPCA here in Scotland, also local reptile shops for taking them in and giving them a forever home. Please bear in mind, as I say, because they may look small. Some people think about, oh, just like a fish tank. You have fish tank, fish die off, like that's fine. It's not like that. It is not like that at all. That creature, the leopard geckos, they will live for possibly for 15 to 20 years. So please bear that in mind when you commit or when you go to buy. You know, if your child becomes bored, well, don't look to discard the animal. That's not fair. They never asked for that. So please bear that in mind. I'm a strong advocate of giving animals or pets a forever home, unless it's completely untenable, you know, to the point where you're not able to provide the proper care. Then that's different, you know. But if you've got, I think by the point when you're buying, you've done your research and you've been given the advice. So that's my 10 pence, what shall we say, and that's my bit of bashing there. But thank you for watching this video. As I said, I'll provide links for care sheets, and there'll be some more videos coming out in due course. I will be doing a schedule at some point. Hopefully we'll have a schedule of when the videos will be coming out and what days they'll be coming out on. But, this is the first video. I do appreciate you all for watching this and take the time to watch this video, and please hit that subscribe button as well for future videos. Hit that like button as well. Anything you want to know, or you want to interact, you want to ask a question, feel free, drop in the comment section. I'll be looking at them, I'll be answering back. This is the whole point of these videos, is so that we all learn. I learn constantly. That's what I'm saying, there is no experts as such. It's all experience. It's all trial and error, it's all experience, but as much as we can help each other to give those animals the best care that they truly deserve. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.